The wind howled through the broken towers of Blackmere Keep. Crows circled above the battlements, feasting on what was left of the night's slaughter. The banners that once bore the golden wolf of House Valor now lay torn and soaked in blood. In the center courtyard stood Lyra Valor, the last surviving daughter of the fallen house. Her armor was dented, her blade cracked, but her eyes cold, unyielding, still burned like iron under a forge. "Your house is ashes," spat a voice behind her. Lyra turned. Lord Corvandre, the conqueror of Blackmere, strode forward with his sword still dripping red. The man who had betrayed her father, sworn brother once, now wearing his victory like a crown. Lyra didn't answer. She only stared, the silence heavier than steel. Corvain tilted his head. "You could kneel, girl. Live. The North has no use for ghosts." Her reply came like a whisper, soft enough to sound almost like prayer. "Neither does the North forgive the living." She moved faster than he expected. Her broken sword sang one's metal against metal, and the next thing he knew, he was on his knees, staring at the stump where his hand had been. But before she could finish it, a horn blew from the hills. Not one, but 3 long hollow calls that froze every soldier in the courtyard. The Frostbane riders were coming. The wind turned colder, snow falling though the sky had been clear moments ago. The air itself seemed to breathe. Shadows crawled across the walls, long and thin. "Impossible," one soldier whispered. "They haven't ridden in 100 years." Corvain staggered back, clutching his bleeding arm. "What did you do, witch?" Lyra looked toward the mountains. Her lips trembled, not from fear but from knowing. Cock of thunder. Then, through the veil of snow, shapes appeared, armored riders on skeletal horses, eyes burning blue. Each step they took froze the ground beneath them. At their head rode the pale king, his armor black as obsidian, his sword forged from pure frost. Corvin's army broke before the first rider reached the gates. Men screamed, dropped their weapons, fled into the storm. The Frostbane riders didn't chase, they consumed. The battle turned into a massacre of silence. Lyra stood still, her breath misting in the air. "Fucked." The pale king stopped before her. He tilted his head, studying her face as if he recognized it. Then he spoke, his voice like cracking ice. "Daughter of the wolf, your blood remembers." She fell to one knee, gripping her chest as the mark burned, a faint sigil glowing beneath her skin, the same mark her ancestors bore when they forged the ancient pact with the frost. Corvain tried to crawl away, whispering prayers to gods that had long stopped listening. Lyra raised her broken sword, looking not at him, but at the pale king. "Take him," she said. And with a gesture, the Frostbane riders descended. By dawn, nothing of Blackmere remained but snow and silence. Lyra walked alone toward the mountains, the mark on her chest still glowing faintly. She knew what waited beyond the throne of frost, empty for a century, waiting for a Valor to reclaim it. The old world was dead, but the North was waking. The storm never ended. For the 3 days and nights, snow fell without mercy, covering the ruins of Blackmere in a shroud of white. Beneath that frozen silence, the whispers began. They said the girl had lived. They said she walked with death itself. Far beyond the valley, Lyra Valor climbed through the spine of frost, the mountains where men had vanished and never returned. Each breath cut her lungs like glass. Her cloak was torn, her hands bruised and bleeding, but she didn't stop. She followed the mark glowing faintly beneath her skin, a pulse of ice and memory. At night the wind carried voices, her father's, her brother's, all dead, all calling. But she knew the truth. The mountains were alive. They watched her climb. Finally, at dawn, she reached it, a vast frozen gate carved into the mountainside, taller than any castle wall. Just across its surface were thousands of runes, shifting faintly like breath beneath the ice. She touched one, and the mountain answered. The gate opened with a scream. Inside was a world forgotten by time, a fortress built entirely of ice and shadow, towering pillars shimmering like mirrors. At its heart stood the throne of frost, glowing faintly blue, frozen veins of power running through the floor like rivers of light. The pale king was waiting. "You returned," his voice echoed, heavy as thunder.
"Oh."
"The blood of the North remembers its crown." Lyra's breath fogged the air. "I didn't come to kneel." The pale king tilted his head, his hollow eyes flickering like dying stars. Then you came to rule." He raised his sword, the blade of eternal winter, and laid it upon her shoulder. The ice didn't burn. It welcomed her. Energy surged through her veins, frost spreading from her hands to her armor, reshaping it into something ancient and regal, a queen's mantle made of shadow and crystal. Outside, the mountains trembled. The storm obeyed her. In the lands below, word spread quickly, flocks of ravens flying from frozen skies to every corner of the realm. Whispers turned to fear. The north had a new ruler. They called her the Frost Queen, but not everyone bowed. In the capital, far to the south, the Iron Keep burned with candlelight as lords and scholars argued over maps and prophecies. One man watched quietly. Prince Edric Dre, brother to the fallen Corvain, stared into the fire with a smile that never reached his eyes. "She's coming," said his spy master. "They say she commands the dead." Edric leaned forward, pouring wine into his cup, and let her come. "The dead can't be bribed, but the living can." He stood, walking toward the window where the rain whispered against glass. "Tell the alchemists to wake the embers. If she brings frost, we'll meet her with fire." Back in the north, Lyra stood before her army. Thousands of pale warriors, the Frostbane riders now kneeling in unison. The Pale King's voice echoed from the shadows. "The world of men is weak. Fire has ruled for too long. It is time the north remembers its own gods." Lyra lifted her hand, and snow twisted into a spiral above her, forming a sigil, the mark of her house reborn. "Then let them remember," she said. "Let them fear the cold again." The sky split open. Snow turned two shards of ice raining from the heavens. Far away in the south, the flames in Edric's hearth flickered blue for the first time. He looked up, and for a moment he felt the chill. The war of frost and fire had begun.